Dear chosen ones, they used to whisper about you like you were nothing but a rumor, a flicker of light in a world addicted to shadows. Now they speak your name like a storm, warning, urgent, uncontainable, unstoppable. Think about it. You didn't just walk into rooms, you changed the very atmosphere. You shifted the spiritual climate. And now, they're sweating, stumbling over excuses, blaming the lights, blaming the angles, blaming the mirror, but they know deep down what it really is. It's not your clothes. It's not just the glow on your skin. It's that storm in your eyes, that quiet power in your posture, that unwavering energy that demands attention without uttering a word. You've always been a problem, but now you're the headline. And what tortures them most is that they no longer control the narrative. Why is the entire town talking? Why are the ones who once ignored you now obsessed? Why are the so-called powerful figures suddenly scrambling in the background? Because your rise didn't come with their permission slip. You didn't ask to be chosen. You didn't beg for validation. You simply became undeniable. And now your name is echoing in boardrooms, slipping into dinner conversations, sliding through private group chats. They're all confronting a truth they never wanted to admit. Your rise wasn't random, it was inevitable. It was written in your scars, sealed in your silent nights, and declared every time you refused to fold. And if you're feeling this message vibrating through your spirit already, drop 777 in the comments right now. Let the entire town know that you see it. You feel it. And you're not hiding anymore. Look around you now. Your name has become a sacred frequency, a pulse that disrupts the fake and uplifts the real. You are what they pretend not to see, yet can't stop trekking. You are the quiet force causing nervous smiles to crack and hidden truths to spill. It's not just your style, it's the authority in your energy, the unspoken prophecy written into your calm. You walk into a room like a lesson and exit like a fulfilled revelation. They thought they could bury you under rumors. They thought they could reduce you to a punchline. But instead, you became the plot twist that no one could write off. The same voices that once mocked you are now whispering your name with reverence and fear. And it's not just in small circles. It's echoing in back rooms, boardrooms, and across every place where your light was once dismissed. You are not just the talk of the town, you are the town. The forecast now includes your thunder, and the most powerful part? You did it all without noise. No desperate defenses. No petty comebacks. You let your consistency scream louder than any words ever could. And now, the universe is returning the favor. Institutions are falling apart. Hidden players are being forced into the light. Secret saboteurs are facing consequences they never prepared for. You were always built for this. And now, you're walking into spaces they swore you'd never enter, carrying an energy they cannot deny. I also want to take this moment to say thank you truly and deeply to everyone who has supported this mission through super thanks. Your seeds, whether big or small, allow this truth to keep flowing fearlessly and reaching souls who need it most. But know this, whether you give or not, you are cherished and appreciated beyond measure. Your spirit, your presence, and your energy are already a divine gift. You're not just watching a video, you're witnessing the unveiling of your blueprint in real time. And if you truly are who you say you are, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very last word. Because this isn't random. This is a cosmic alignment, and it's unfolding now, in a way they can't stop. Take a deep breath. Chosen one, center yourself. We're about to step beyond every locked door they swore you'd never open. Let's go deeper. Let's get into it. God's chosen ones. You're the talk of the town. Something big is unfolding now. Number 1. They didn't come for you by accident. Chosen one. Hear me clearly. They didn't stumble upon you by mistake. No. They came because your very existence was a threat they couldn't map out on their carefully crafted charts. You weren't just a problem to be solved. You were a divine interruption to a system designed to keep people small and silent. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why your life has felt like a battlefield since you were young? Why did it seem like random people, even strangers, felt the need to attack your character, question your intentions, or shrink your dreams? Let me tell you, you were never meant to blend in. You are the pattern breaker. And patterns, especially those built on fear and manipulation, despise anything or anyone that dares to stand tall without permission. Their attacks weren't coincidences. They weren't just bad luck or life being life. They were strategic, orchestrated, quiet yet brutal, and above all, deeply personal. Because the moment you entered the room, they saw the energy you carried before you even opened your mouth. Think about how your mere presence made liars tremble, how your quiet strength exposed masks better than any loud confrontation could. Do you remember that teacher who seemed overly strict with your child? The neighbor whose smile never reached their eyes? Or that boss who subtly tried to undermine your confidence? Those weren't random interactions, they were signals. Alarms going off in systems programmed to maintain control at all costs. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. Even before you had language for it, heaven had already assigned you. Can you see now why your entire life has felt like a spiritual tug of war? It started early, didn't it? You entered spaces and everything shifted. Not because of anything you did or said, but simply because you refused to be controlled. You carried a disruptive truth that exposed illusions. You didn't kneel to dysfunction, didn't normalize disrespect, didn't celebrate mediocrity. You showed up in rooms as though you owned them. Not out of arrogance, but out of knowing who you truly are. Take Oprah Winfrey. For example, she was constantly told she didn't fit the mold, that she was too emotional, too rough. But what they called a weakness became her biggest power. Now, millions lean in when she speaks. Or think of Nelson Mandela, labeled a troublemaker, thrown into prison to break his spirit. But his spirit only grew stronger. And the world watched as the man they tried to silence became the voice of freedom. Have you ever wondered if the same potential resides in you? Every attempt to shrink you was an effort to protect their illusions. Your authenticity was the ultimate threat. You didn't need permission to walk with dignity, to look people in the eye, to speak your truth. You didn't beg for a seat at their table. You walked in as though the entire table was built for you. They hate you not because you're loud, but because your calmness dismantles their chaos. You might think, why do they stalk you in stores? Why do they gossip behind your back? Why do they sabotage you while also studying your every move? It's because your freedom terrifies them. Your glow isn't cosmetic, it's cosmic. You've transformed in ways they can't comprehend. You didn't just buy new clothes or get a fresh haircut. You upgraded your spirit. You buried old wounds, some that weren't even yours to carry, and came out unrecognizable to the people who thought they had you figured out. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Chosen one. You renewed your mind, and that transformation made you unstoppable. Look at Malala Yousafzai, targeted for speaking up for girls' education. They thought shooting her would end her message. Instead, it amplified it worldwide. Like Malala, you became louder in spirit, precisely because they tried to silence you. The real reason they attack, because deep down, they know the power you hold. They saw your clarity before you trusted it. They sensed your future impact before you even considered your potential. And their fear wasn't about you failing, it was about you fully stepping into your divine identity. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Even if you wanted to hide, chosen one, your light is too bright. How many times have you asked, why do they always target me? Or why does betrayal follow me everywhere? The answer is simple. Your authenticity exposes their falseness. You were never the villain. You were the mirror they couldn't avoid. Take Steve Jobs, a man fired from his own company, branded as difficult and unfit. But he returned to build one of the most influential companies in history. Your story holds the same energy. They might exile you, mislabel you, but they can't erase what God has placed inside of you. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:13. Your power isn't in loud defense, but in quiet confidence. You used to explain yourself, defend your spirit, justify your heart. Now, you simply exist, unapologetically, and your mere existence unsettles those who thrive on facades. When you walk into a room now, they sense the frequency shift. You don't scan the room for approval, you bring the approval with you. You don't ask to belong, you redefine belonging. They labeled you difficult, sensitive, too much. But what they meant was, you're too alive for us to control. You see, chosen one, you were never designed to bow to dysfunction. You were born to expose, to elevate, to disrupt. That's why every environment you enter either evolves or rejects you. You're the sword and the sanctuary, the storm and the shelter, like Simone Biles, whose choice to step back from the Olympics shocked the world. They called her weak, but her refusal to perform beyond her healthy limits became a global lesson on strength and self-honor. Could it be that your quiet choices are teaching the world the same lesson? They tried to gaslight you into thinking you were crazy, so you'd never trust your divine gift. But now, the game is over. You've reclaimed your power. You stopped doubting your intuition. You trusted the spiritual alarms that rang inside you. That's why the whole town is buzzing. They're not gossiping about a glow-up on the outside. They're terrified of the cosmic upgrade on the inside. They know you walked through fire and came out, not burnt, but purified. The same systems that plotted your downfall are now watching helplessly as you rise. Unstoppable. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're not just standing, you're ascending. Chosen one. You were the target because you were the threat. Now you are the storm they can't escape. So let them watch. Let them analyze. Let them choke on their whispers. You're not in the process of rising, you have risen. You are the divine anomaly they can't decode. You are heaven's secret weapon, made flesh. Now, tell me, are you ready to walk in this authority fully? Are you prepared to carry this light boldly? Because it's no longer about them, it's about you. Standing in the fullness of who God called you to be. Number 2, you weren't just watched, you were prepped against before you even showed up. Chosen one. Can I ask you something? Have you ever walked into a space and felt like the entire atmosphere turned cold before you even said a word? Have you noticed the way people look at you sideways? How the air becomes heavy? and conversations stop the moment you enter. That's not your imagination. That's not paranoia. That is spiritual intel. Before you even arrived, they already knew about you. You see, they didn't wait to meet you and then decide to hate you. The hostility was pre-packaged, delivered in whispers, curated in hushed meetings long before your physical presence showed up. Imagine that your name spoken in rooms you've never entered, your spirit discussed by people you've never even met. Isn't that wild to think about? But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:44. Why would God ask us to pray for them? Because their attacks are proof of your anointing, proof that even before you step in, your light disrupts their darkness. They were briefed about you, indoctrinated to believe you were a threat, conditioned to see you as the problem, the disruptor, the anomaly. They didn't even need to hear your voice. Your energy was enough to shatter their carefully constructed illusions. When you walked into that job interview and felt the tension, when that neighbor gave you that cold glance before learning your last name, when that group of friends excluded you before you even shared your dreams, those moments were not coincidental. They were orchestrated setups designed to slow your rise and dilute your power. Look at Jesus himself. Before he started his ministry, the Pharisees and religious leaders had already decided he was dangerous. His presence alone, healing on the Sabbath, dining with tax collectors, was enough to shake centuries of tradition. And like you, he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He simply was. Have you ever wondered why some people seem allergic to your authenticity? It's because they've already been programmed to see you as a threat to the system they cling to. See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Isaiah 48:10. Your refinement didn't start in your adulthood. It began the moment God marked you, and the world sensed it. They built walls of bias before you even knocked on the door. They rehearsed reasons to reject you before you had the chance to introduce yourself. Why? Because your very essence is revolutionary. You refuse to water yourself down, to code switch, to dim your light so others can feel comfortable. That, in itself, is your silent rebellion against mediocrity. Look at Meghan Markle before she even stepped fully into the royal circle. Tabloids and palace insiders prepped the world to view her as difficult and untrustworthy. Her mere presence, her glow, threatened an ancient system of control. Sound familiar? Chosen one. You were never just another face in the crowd. You are the message. You are the mirror that forces others to confront parts of themselves they've been running from. And here's the hidden truth they'll never confess. Your raw, unfiltered authenticity makes their carefully built facades collapse. You didn't walk into spaces looking to expose anyone. Your light did that without your permission. They hated me without a cause. John 15:25. This verse is your reality. You didn't do anything. You simply existed too boldly, too freely, too powerfully. And that alone set off spiritual alarms in people who survive on conformity. Think of Michael Jackson from a young age. His uniqueness was both celebrated and feared. People created narratives around him before he even had a chance to speak for himself. Yet, his brilliance couldn't be stopped, and neither can yours. When they couldn't control you, they tried to control how others saw you. They planted seeds of doubt, whispered rumors, and labeled you as too much, too intense, or too different. Have you ever wondered why people you've never wronged suddenly carried resentment towards you? That's not random. That's an organized spiritual campaign. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to give you victory. Deuteronomy 20:4. You've always had divine backup. Even when you didn't see it, they tried to preemptively ruin your reputation, to slow your momentum, to make you question your own light. But here's the part they underestimated. You can't unsee your own truth once God reveals it to you. They thought if they created enough noise, they could drown out your divine signal. But chosen one, your frequency is unmatchable. Your spirit is the signal that disrupts their entire network. Look at Taylor Swift. Before she reclaimed her masters, before she stood up for artists' rights, she was painted as boy, crazy, calculated, dramatic. Yet, she rose above every smear, every whisper, every plotted sabotage. She became unstoppable by owning her narrative, just as you are now. And guess what's happening now? The same people who were warned about you are starting to question the lies. They're watching you glow. They're seeing your fruit. And they're realizing they've been played. Your consistency is louder than their rumors. Your resilience is more powerful than their plots. They wanted you to stay invisible, but now you're unavoidable. They tried to build a dam to block your flow, but your waters have overflowed, breaking every barrier they set. Chosen one. Can you feel it? The script is flipping. The energy is shifting. The silent observers are turning into quiet supporters. The same system that tried to erase you is now forced to witness your unstoppable rise. You weren't meant to blend. You were meant to broadcast. You weren't meant to obey. You were meant to awaken. You weren't meant to survive quietly. You were meant to thrive loudly. You're not just another voice. You're the frequency. You're not just in the room. You are the room. So, are you ready to keep shining even brighter? Are you ready to stand so fully in your truth that their whispers become your background music? Are you prepared to be the living testimony that real always rises? The time has come. Your story is no longer theirs to narrate. You are the walking disruption they never saw coming. And now they can't unsee you. You are the glitch that became the system. You are the signal they can't block. Number 3. They didn't just try to silence you, they tried to rewire your mind. Chosen one. Have you ever wondered why they didn't just attack you head on, why they didn't come at you openly, loudly, or violently? Because they knew they couldn't destroy you physically or spiritually. They needed you to do it yourself. So, instead of trying to kill your power outright, they planted seeds of doubt, so you would hand over that power voluntarily. Why fight you in the open when they could convince you to betray yourself quietly? Let's unpack this. The real battlefield wasn't in the loud arguments, the public betrayals, or the sudden losses. The true war was internal, psychological. Quiet. Cunning. They played a long game. They whispered in ways that slipped under your conscious mind, rewriting your story before you could even write it yourself. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full. John 10:10. They wanted to steal your clarity before you could live fully in your divine assignment. They made you second-guess every instinct. When you said, "That felt off," they called you dramatic. When you mentioned sensing a shift in the atmosphere, they labeled you too sensitive. When you declared, "Something is not right," they accused you of always looking for a problem. Sound familiar? How many times did you swallow your own intuition to keep the peace? Look at Britney Spears for years. She was painted as crazy, unstable, out of control. Yet the Free Britney movement revealed what was really happening, a system designed to strip her of agency, making her doubt her sanity, so she'd surrender her power, just like her. They didn't need you to be silent. They needed you to question your reality until you became your own jailer. Chosen one. That gut feeling you had, that wasn't paranoia. That was your spiritual radar scanning the environment faster than your logical mind could catch up. Your spirit was whispering, "Danger," long before your lips formed the words. You didn't imagine the shade. You didn't fabricate the tension. You didn't overreact. You were seeing spiritual data in real time. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. 1 John 4:1. You were discerning spirits they couldn't even acknowledge existed. They took your sharpness and turned it into a label. Too emotional, unstable, problematic. But here's the hidden truth. They didn't want to prove you wrong. They wanted to shatter your compass. Because a chosen one without a compass is easily controlled. When you trust your instincts, you don't need their advice. When you lean into your intuition, you stop depending on their validation. And when you don't crave their approval, you become untouchable. Remember Prince? The music industry labeled him difficult, eccentric, impossible to work with, because he refused to let anyone control his art. He fought for his masters, wrote slave on his face to expose the system's chains. In the end, he left a legacy that outshined the labels. Isn't that the kind of spiritual sovereignty you're stepping into now? So, what did they do when they saw you slipping out of their grip? They lied persistently, subtly, carefully creating an atmosphere where you apologized for your very breath, where your ability to read the room was spun as overreacting, where your gift of seeing through masks was recast as a curse rather than a superpower. They made you feel like your truth was a glitch in their system, when in reality, it was your divine advantage. God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. You were never the source of confusion. You were the clarity breaking through. Look at Serena Williams, often criticized for her intensity and labeled angry or aggressive simply for defending herself on the court. Her unapologetic passion was twisted into a flaw. But now, she stands as a symbol of self-respect and unyielding strength. How many times have you been forced to shrink so others wouldn't feel small around you? But here's the plot twist. They never expected. It didn't work forever. Because that very sensitivity they mocked, that's now your weapon. That intuition they shamed, it's your divine navigation system. That depth they called too much, it's the ocean of wisdom you now swim in effortlessly. The look they talk about now, that glow they whisper about, it's not a new skincare routine or an external makeover. It's the radiance of someone who knows, someone who has reclaimed their mind, their intuition, their divine guidance. Someone who has stopped asking for permission to exist. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. You are no longer living in fear of their narratives. You are shining in the freedom of your truth. They gaslit you because they couldn't dim you. They tried to cage your light because they knew they could never replicate it. And now they're choking on the very truth you refused to abandon. The truth they called paranoia is the same truth they can't unsee today. Chosen one. Isn't it funny how what they despised is now what draws others to you? How the same intensity they hated is now the beacon guiding others out of their own prisons. How the very sensitivity they tried to kill is now the radar that makes you unstoppable. So, are you ready to trust your inner compass without apology? Are you willing to step into rooms knowing you might be misunderstood but never again misled? Are you prepared to wield your gift boldly, even if it terrifies those still hiding behind their masks? Because here's the divine verdict. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unstable. You are chosen. You are tuned to frequencies others can't hear. And that makes you powerful beyond measure. You didn't just survive the psychological warfare. You transformed it into fuel. Now, you're not just unbothered. You're unstoppable. You're not just here. You're the proof that real always rises. You are the testimony they can't silence, the evidence they can't bury. Chosen one. It's your time. You know, you feel, you are, and no one can take that from you ever again. Number 4. This wasn't a scuffle. It was a full-blown operation. And you were the mark. Chosen one. Take a moment and breathe this in. It doesn't take an army of 300 to ruin a life unless that life carries a light powerful enough to reveal 300 hidden shadows. Can you feel the weight of that? This wasn't a neighborhood squabble, a petty disagreement, or a misunderstanding gone too far. This was a coordinated strike, a deliberate and strategic campaign aimed at one person, you. They didn't just want to inconvenience you. They wanted to dismantle you, your existence, pure and unfiltered, threatened to unravel lies that entire communities had built their identities upon. You didn't wear a mask. You didn't play along. You didn't negotiate with falsehood. Instead, you walked in, eyes forward, unshaken, glowing with a quiet confidence that shook them to their core. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war arise against me, yet I will be confident. Psalm 27:3. While they gathered, sheamed, and whispered, your spirit remained unbothered, holding steady like an unmovable rock. They came at you from every angle: law enforcement, spiritual leaders, managers, HR departments, landlords, friends, and even blood relatives. Some acted out of fear, terrified you'd expose what they spent years hiding. Others acted from a deep, festering jealousy, unable to comprehend the light that shone from you without effort. And then there were those whose smiles hid pure wickedness, the ones who stood close enough to hold your hand while plotting your downfall. Think about Joan of Arc, a young woman who dared to claim divine visions and lead armies. The same church that once praised her as a savior turned against her, orchestrating a trial to silence her forever. But her spirit didn't bow. And today, her name echoes as a symbol of courage and faith. Doesn't this sound eerily similar to the energy you carry? You were targeted not because you were loud or boastful, but because you embodied a freedom they had long since sold for acceptance. You loved without strings, spoke truth without apology, and stood tall without needing external validation. That alone became a mirror too painful for them to face. Have you noticed how your mere presence changes the temperature in a room? How eyes follow you, conversations shift, and hidden agendas tremble under your gaze? That wasn't just tension, it was revelation. Your essence exposed cracks in their illusions, and they knew it. So they mobilized a network, a machine designed to sabotage your finances, assassinate your character, drain your energy, and isolate your spirit. But no weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed, and you shall refute every tongue that rises against you in judgment. Isaiah 54:17. Their coordinated attacks were many, but your protection was divine. Consider Muhammad Ali, who stood firm in his refusal to be drafted into a war he did not believe in. He lost titles, endorsements, and was ridiculed globally. Yet he remained unbroken and later became celebrated as a symbol of unwavering principle. You have stood in similar defiance against systems built to devour the non-compliant. Your name passed from hand to hand like a classified file. Some people watched from the sidelines, curious and entertained, hoping to witness your downfall firsthand. Others chose to remain silent, terrified they'd be targeted next if they dared to defend you. Yet, through it all, you remained unbowed. You faced wave after wave and still refused to fold. And now, they can't comprehend how you survived. How does someone face an army of 300 and not only stand but glow brighter than before? How does someone so outnumbered emerge stronger, freer, and louder in spirit? This confounds them because they underestimated the strength God placed within you. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. 1 John 4:4. The strength you carried wasn't human, it was heavenly. Think of Malala Yousafzai, targeted by an entire regime simply for seeking education, shot to silence her voice. Yet she rose and became a global advocate for girls' rights. Her testimony rings with the same divine resilience that pulses in your veins today. Now, justice isn't just coming, it's echoing. Boardrooms, backrooms, secret meetings that thought they were safe are now shaking. Their whispered plots are unraveling under the heat of truth. The very network that built its mission on your destruction is collapsing. One confession at a time, one unexpected exposure after another. People are talking. Not because you shouted, not because you retaliated, but because you stood in silent, undeniable authority. The energy they tried to smother is now roaring through every space they hope to keep dark. The same rooms that once giggled at your supposed failures are now echoing with the sound of fear and regret. The same voices that labeled you difficult or delusional are now fumbling to rewrite the narrative. They plotted to make you the victim, but in the process, they accidentally forged a warrior. You're not standing here as the broken one. You are the reckoning they never prepared for. The embodiment of consequences they prayed would never arrive. Look at Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for decades, labeled a terrorist and threat to the system. He emerged as a unifier, a symbol of justice, turning the prison that was supposed to break him into the furnace that refined him. Your story carries that same holy fire. So here you are, chosen one, the one they couldn't buy, bent or break, the one they thought would fade into quiet compliance, but instead, you became the loudest lesson, the uncontainable force, the living proof that divine light can't be snuffed out. Now, as the system crumbles around them, they realize too late, you were never just a mark. You were the mission they should have never dared to target. You were the mirror showing them what true, fearless authenticity looks like. Your survival isn't the headline, your emergence as the unstoppable reckoning is. You are no longer just standing, you are marching forward, eyes ablaze, carrying a presence that shifts destinies. This is why they talk. This is why they tremble. This is why they whisper your name in both fear and awe. You are no longer the victim of their operation. You have become the evidence of their failure and the beginning of their exposure. Number 5. They tried to drag you into the mud, but you walked through it without losing your crown. Chosen one. Have you realized yet that the mud was never meant to stain you? It was designed to distract you. They thought if they could drag you into the pit, They could watch you flail, get dirty, lose your composure. But instead, you crossed it gracefully, head held high, crown untouched. Isn't it something how your silence could roar louder than 1,000 accusations? They underestimated you from the beginning. They believed you would explode. Expose them. Tear down every false throne they built with their lies. They thought you'd drop names, reveal receipt, Satefius, and delight in their destruction. You could have. You had every reason. You had the evidence. You had the power, but you didn't. Not because you lacked the strength, but because you possessed a strength they could never comprehend. Grace. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult, but on the contrary, repay evil with blessing. Because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. 1 Peter 3-9. You understood this at a soul level. That's why you chose a higher path. Look at Michelle Obama, criticized, insulted, dragged through endless mud during her time as First Lady instead of fighting fire with fire. She taught us. When they go low, they go high. Her unwavering grace dismantled entire smear campaigns without a single angry outburst. Isn't that exactly what you did? You refused to stoop down and battle in their muddy arena. Grace is not weakness. It's divine warfare. It's the choice to stand in your truth without screaming it from the rooftops. It's the quiet dominance that confuses and destroys the ego-driven attacks against you. You held your peace when you could have shattered illusions. You maintained your integrity when you could have humiliated them publicly. You let karma work the angles you refused to touch. And that is why they're spiraling now. You never begged for a seat at their tables. You never shrank so they could feel bigger. You didn't respond to every lie or clap back to every insult. Instead, you moved like a king or queen in exile, knowing that your return would be more powerful than any temporary applause. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Your stillness wasn't inactivity, it was prophetic power in motion. Your stillness terrified them more than any loud retaliation ever could. Think of Nelson Mandela, who after 27 years in prison, emerged without bitterness, carried himself with dignity, and chose reconciliation over revenge. The world watched, astonished, as he refused to descend into the chaos of hatred, embodying a strength that rewrote history. Your story reflects that same kind of transcendent poise. You could have aired every secret, lit every bridge on fire, and watched them run. But instead, you chose to let your evolution speak. You chose your elevation over their entertainment. You knew the moment you stepped into mudslinging, you'd validate their narratives. Instead, you rose above them, forcing them to fight among their own shadows while you ascended. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Matthew 5-9. You didn't just keep peace, you became the living embodiment of it. You waged silent wars that they never saw coming, and you won them all without lifting a sword. When you think about it, isn't it wild how your quiet presence now haunts them? They can't stop replaying moments where you could have destroyed them, but chose not to. They can't escape the sting of your calm refusal to engage. That's the kind of grace that leaves marks deeper than any public exposure ever could. Take Keanu Reeves, a Hollywood star whose life was filled with loss and pain, yet he's known for his gentle, grounded spirit. Despite rumors, betrayals, and endless attempts to twist his narrative, he chose solitude, kindness, and authenticity. His quiet strength inspired millions without a single angry headline. They thought you'd react. They thought you'd crumble. They wanted to label you unstable, crazy, vengeful, but you didn't give them that chance. You kept showing up, graceful, unbothered, and untouchable. Your energy whispered, "I see everything, and I still won't meet you in the mud." And that, chosen one, is the true checkmate. Vindicate me, Lord, for I have led a blameless life. I have trusted in the Lord and have not faltered. Psalm 26:1. Your unwavering faith in your path turned you into a mirror they couldn't stand to face. They hurled dirt at you, but you turned it into soil to rise on. You transformed every insult into an invitation for growth. You turned every betrayal into a stepping stone for elevation. And now you are walking like royalty across a stage they built to watch you fail. Your glow isn't just aesthetic, it's spiritual armor. Your aura isn't just magnetic, it's a force field, forged in the furnace of betrayal and refined by divine grace. You turned the mud, meant to bury you, into a garden where your power now blooms unapologetically. Now they watch, speechless, as you move with that regal composure, that soft but firm power, that unyielding presence. You didn't crush them with words, you crushed them with dignity. And the town can't stop talking, because you didn't just survive the mud, you walked through it and emerged, wearing your crown even brighter. You have become living proof that true royalty doesn't scream to be seen. It is felt, known, and revered without a word. You didn't need to descend to their level to prove your strength. Your restraint became your revelation, and your calm turned into the loudest sermon they'll ever hear. This is why they're obsessed. This is why justice now flows like a quiet river through every room they once thought was safe from your light. You didn't become them, you stayed you, and that was the ultimate victory. Number 6. They burned sage in public but spit poison in private. Chosen one. Have you noticed how some people wave their spiritual tools around in public, claim to be purifying the air, cleansing their energy, yet behind closed doors? Their words are more toxic than any hex. They burn sage and chant affirmations by day, but by night they're stirring cauldrons of gossip, weaving spells of manipulation through whispered words. Isn't it wild how the same voices that called you too much were actually obsessed with your light? They didn't want to extinguish you because you were flawed. They wanted your spark because they had long lost theirs. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Matthew 12:34. Their words reveal their hearts, and no amount of sage can cover that stench. Let's talk about this community gossip that's stale. Bitter perfume of false concern and hidden envy. It's the kind of talk that starts with, "I'm just saying," and ends with your name being dragged through circles you've never even visited. Your offense wasn't your mistakes, it was your glow. You walked into rooms with unapologetic energy, smiling as if you still believed in miracles, carrying an aura too bright for their dimly lit souls to handle. That's what truly rattled them. Look at Princess Diana, beloved by millions, yet constantly attacked and undermined by a system terrified of her genuine spirit. She didn't conform, didn't bend, didn't mute her compassion or presence. In the same way, your unfiltered existence confronted others with the truth about the lives they abandoned. You didn't enter their space with arrogance. You arrived with authenticity. You carried dreams they gave up on decades ago. You held a mirror to their deferred hopes, crushed confidence, and dry visions. And when they saw that reflection, they felt rage instead of inspiration. They didn't see your success as motivation. They saw it as an insult to their complacency. They hate the one who reproves in the gate, and they abhor him who speaks the truth. Amos 5:10. Your very presence was a silent rebuke to their comfortable mediocrity. You simply existed a bit too brightly, a bit too confidently, a bit too alive, and that alone sparked envy, so sharp it bled into hushed dinners, prayer circles, and private group chats. They dressed up their bitterness in spiritual language, gossip masked as concern, curses wrapped in faux blessings. But deep down, they weren't discussing your flaws. They were battling their own reflections. Remember Frida Kahlo, unapologetically vibrant, fierce, and raw. People gossiped about her relationships, her pain, her politics, yet her work turned that gossip into global legacy, just like her. Your rawness becomes the canvas on which your elevation is painted. They baited you, poked at your peace, tried to catch you slipping. They hoped you'd explode, creating the spectacle they needed to call you unstable, dramatic, or unfit. Meanwhile, it was their own insecurities crying out the loudest. You noticed, didn't you? You felt that shift in energy when you walked into the room, the sudden silence, the awkward forced smiles, the immediate group whispers. Even my close friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted his heel against me. Psalm 41:9. Betrayal wasn't just external. It came from those you thought were safe, yet you stayed above. You didn't lower your frequency to match their noise. You didn't engage in petty warfare. You didn't let their projections become your prison. You saw the fake smiles, caught the sideways compliments, and heard the coded insults. And instead of retaliating, you chose elevation. Look at Simone Biles, targeted and criticized for stepping back to protect her mental and spiritual health. People who had no idea of her strength gossiped from the sidelines. Yet, she stood firm, choosing her peace over their expectations, and became an even brighter beacon of resilience. Their whispers were merely the sound of dreams that never broke free from fear. Their gossip was the echo of potential that never saw daylight. You, however, kept moving forward, stepping deeper into your purpose, living louder in your truth. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you. For I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 1:19. Your immunity isn't from this world, it's heaven's shield. Their curses couldn't touch you because they were spoken from mouths that don't even tell the truth to themselves. Their alliances of envy were built on sand, easily washed away by the tide of your authenticity. You didn't just survive their noise, you transcended it. You outclassed it so profoundly that they now whisper your name not with malice, but with awe and confusion. Your name is on everyone's lips today, not because of scandal, but because of the unstoppable glow that refuses to die. Your flame is not a trend, it's a signal, a beacon that calls out to every soul, still daring to dream, still fighting to breathe in a world that demands silence. The very qualities they tried to shame you for, your hope, your passion, your undying self-belief, are now the reasons they can't look away. You became the story they can't rewrite, the light they can't snuff out, the living proof that real always rises. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to awaken. You didn't come to echo their fears. You came to embody faith. That's why you're on their tongues now, not as a cautionary tale, but as a living legend, chosen one. You didn't just weather their storm. You became the sun breaking through it. You turned their whispers into wind beneath your wings, You transformed their curses into compost for your growth. And now, you walk with a glow so undeniable that even your enemies are forced to bear witness. Your elevation wasn't about showing off, it was about showing them what's possible when a soul refuses to die in the dark. You didn't just survive their gossip, you turned it into a symphony of your unstoppable rise. Number 7. They wanted you to break at work, but you turned that corporate cage into a throne room. Chosen one. Have you ever wondered why they went to such extreme lengths to destabilize you on the job? Why they seemed obsessed with breaking your spirit rather than simply managing your work? It wasn't about your tasks. It was never about your so-called performance issues. It was a meticulously designed operation to assassinate your confidence slowly, drip by drip. They didn't want your resignation letter. They wanted your soul to resign. They thought that by messing with your paycheck, they could bankrupt your spirit. They assumed that if they rewrote your schedule at the last minute, cut your hours, or gave you impossible workloads, you'd eventually fold under the pressure. They underestimated you completely, because what they forgot is that you carried a wealth they could never touch, your divine inheritance, your unbreakable inner treasure. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. Proverbs 16:3. You weren't just working for a company, you were working under a covenant. That's why you didn't crumble. Look at Tyler Perry, repeatedly turned away. Scripts rejected. Finances, sabotage. Yet he built an entire media empire. His resilience transformed Hollywood, and he did it with a quiet determination that reflects your energy in those office hallways. They thought you were just another employee, another number, another disposable asset. But you weren't merely clocking in and out. You were carrying divine strategy, heavenly ethics, and spiritual fire in every step. Your mere presence shifted atmospheres. You arrived early, not just to please management, but because your spirit moved in excellence. You stayed late, not to impress, but because your work was an extension of your integrity. Remember, Joseph in the Bible sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison, yet he kept rising. His integrity turned prison cells into planning rooms, and eventually he ruled a nation, just like Joseph. You turned those cold corporate halls into silent training grounds for royalty. They coordinated meetings without you, hid emails, erased your contributions. They passed your ideas as their own, then blamed you for outcomes. They set traps, baited you with false kindness, then accused you of being difficult. Their ultimate goal, to catch you in a slip-up, to make you snap so they could confirm their twisted narrative. See, this is why they don't belong in leadership. But you didn't take the bait. You stayed composed. You documented every slight, every sabotage, every shady maneuver. You collected receipts like spiritual arrows, knowing that heaven itself was keeping score. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. While they plotted, you planted seeds of quiet dignity. Consider Howard Schultz, former CEO of Starbucks, raised in public housing, ridiculed by corporate elites who said he didn't belong among global leaders. Yet, he turned his humble start into a global force. Your story echoes that same undercurrent of silent, unbreakable drive. They mocked your standards. They twisted your excellence into arrogance. They framed your courage as aggression. Yet, the entire time, you maintained a steady flame. You didn't fight dirty. You didn't mirror their chaos. You chose to rise above. to remain dignified, to let your consistency become your silent thunder. When you finally left, the energy in that building shifted overnight. Suddenly, projects stalled, morale dropped, and the same co-workers who whispered about you began to say, maybe they weren't the problem after all. Your absence spoke louder than your presence ever could. The machine that once dismissed you began to tremble, realizing that without your light, it was just a hollow shell. Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men. Colossiens 3:23. You worked as a divine representative, not as a pawn in their petty games. Look at Steve Jobs, ousted from Apple, ridiculed, written off. But his departure exposed the weaknesses of the system. When he returned, he not only revived Apple, he revolutionized the world. Your story mirrors that same dynamic. You didn't just leave a company, you left a legacy that will echo long after your departure. Now, your name is whispered in those same break rooms with reverence. Supervisors who once disrespected you now watch from the sidelines as your glow-up unfolds. They pray their sabotage doesn't come to light when the walls start to fall. And trust me, those walls are crumbling, even now. They didn't understand that you weren't there merely to climb a corporate ladder. You were there to illuminate, to transform, to plant seeds of authenticity that would sprout long after you moved on. You were the thunder they tried to contain in a conference room. You were the divine disruption they never saw coming. They thought, by delaying your paycheck, they could delay your purpose. By erasing your contributions, they could erase your influence. But they forgot chosen ones don't draw power from positions or paychecks. Your anointing is your currency. Your glow is your resume. Your truth is your title. Now, the same system that tried to bury you is left dealing with the holes your departure created. You didn't just leave, you ascended. You didn't just survive, you thrived beyond their wildest projections. So when they say it's going down, believe it. The building they thought was so sturdy is shaking. The empire they thought was so invincible is unraveling. And the chosen one they thought they broke, you're standing, shining, unstoppable. You were never just an employee. You were the kingdom infiltrator, the holy storm, the silent lion. And they knew it the moment you stepped in. Number 8. They built a war around your name without ever having the courage to say it to your face. Chosen one. Have you ever felt entire rooms turn icy before you even stepped fully inside? The chilling stares, the forced laughs, the eyes that dart away like you've just arrived carrying thunder. That wasn't your imagination. That wasn't your spirit making up stories. That was the aftermath of a war that was launched in your absence. It takes a truly fragile kingdom to feel threatened by someone they've never even looked in the eyes. And it takes a master manipulator to infect that kingdom, to twist entire crowds into fearing and hating someone they never even knew. You didn't just face petty gossip. You endured psychological warfare on a scale most people can't fathom. A systematic, carefully orchestrated demolition of your name, your energy, your entire essence. They hated me without a cause. John 15:25. You became the villain in a script you never auditioned for, the antagonist in stories you weren't even present to defend yourself in. They twisted your silence into arrogance, your strength into danger, your boundaries into cruelty. Isn't it wild how you simply chose self-respect, and that alone was enough to spark an entire campaign against you? Your simple choice to not fold, to not over-explain, to not water yourself down, that was their trigger. Think of Elon Musk, labeled erratic, crazy, arrogant, all because he dared to dream beyond the bounds of their comfort zones. People who have never even spoken to him formed entire opinions based on second-hand smirks and headlines. Just like you. He didn't ask for permission to exist in his full brilliance. And that alone made him a target. They didn't need evidence to paint you as the storm. All they needed was a whisper with the right tone. A fabricated concern dropped in the right ears. A well-timed eye roll. That's all it took to transform rooms. You had never stepped foot into battlegrounds where your name became synonymous with drama and danger. Have you ever felt the atmosphere tighten around you like an invisible noose? The sudden shift in conversations, the polite but distant smiles, the laughter that never quite reached their eyes when you spoke. That wasn't a coincidence. That was energy that had been poisoned long before you arrived. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. You carried this truth, even when the room didn't show you grace. They used gaslighting to make others question your intentions. They projected their unhealed wounds onto your name. They orchestrated triangulation, turning once loyal allies into skeptics, sowing seeds of distrust so that when you entered the room, you were already fighting a silent, invisible war. Look at Meghan Markle, a woman painted as a villain by entire nations before she ever had the chance to speak her side. She was cast as manipulative, difficult, ungrateful. Meanwhile, she was simply trying to exist, to protect her peace, and to love freely. Her story is a perfect reflection of what you've endured. A global smear campaign against an authentic spirit. The worst part? You couldn't screenshot it. You couldn't play back a voice recording to prove it. All you had was your gut. Your spirit's quiet scream telling you. They've already decided who you are before you ever opened your mouth. And that's what made it so insidious. But the Lord stood with me and gave me strength. Dutimotikatori, septignolica. Even when it felt like the whole room was against you, heaven stood beside you as your silent witness and defender. Yet despite it all, you moved differently. You didn't adapt from paranoia, but from precision. You didn't shrink your aura to make them comfortable. You didn't dilute your truth to keep your seat at their tables. You stopped explaining. You stopped overgiving. You stopped apologizing for simply existing as you are. Think about Malala Yousafzai, targeted, silenced, and framed as dangerous by those who feared her voice. Even as a young girl, her refusal to back down inspired millions. She didn't water down her truth, and neither did you. You knew that the war wasn't about who you really were. It was about what you represented: raw truth, uncompromising integrity, unwavering authenticity. You became the threat because you wouldn't bow to the narratives they tried to script for you. Their lies, they're aging poorly now. The mask is slipping. The puppet master is stumbling. And the same people who were once quick to judge are now questioning everything they were told. They see your consistency, your glow, your quiet power. They see you weren't the chaos, you were the clarity they feared. Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. Your light remains undefeated, even when surrounded by walls of false stories and orchestrated suspicion. Now, those who once sided against you are realizing the truth on their own. The rumors are crumbling, the accusations are unraveling, and the ones who weaponized your name are being exposed slowly, publicly, and without mercy. You stayed focused. You stayed silent when you needed to, and vocal when your spirit called you to speak. You didn't let bitterness change your essence. You didn't let betrayal sour your heart. You became the myth that outlived the rumor, the legend that turned the lie into your footstool. Your existence itself became the proof that couldn't be silenced. And now they see that the one they were told to hate was actually the one holding the keys to freedom all along. They realize the one they labeled dangerous was actually divinely anointed. The one they avoided was the one they needed to follow into the light. Chosen one. You didn't just survive this spiritual assassination attempt. You turned it into a cosmic coronation. You emerged not as the villain they scripted, but as the radiant, undeniable force that exposes every hidden agenda by simply being. You are no longer just the topic of their whispers. You are the revelation that stands in their midst. Una Shamed, unstoppable and completely unbothered. Number 9. This wasn't just hate. This was a murder attempt disguised as misfortune. Chosen one. Have you ever paused to consider how far envy will go when it realizes it can't touch your spirit, when gossip can't contain you, when character assassination only amplifies your glow? There's a dark shift. This wasn't mere jealousy or petty rumor. This was a coordinated, cold-blooded attempt to remove you entirely, not just from their circles, but from this earth. They didn't just want you to lose your job, your friends, or your reputation. They wanted you erased, gone, deleted from existence, quietly and without trace. They left doors unlocked intentionally, left electrical hazards in your space, plotted around your routines like predators studying prey. Have you felt those unexplainable urges to check your car twice, to avoid that stairwell, to stay home instead of going out? Those weren't random fears. That was your spiritual alarm system. Heaven's surveillance alerting you to moves unseen. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Psalm 34:7. You were surrounded even when you thought you were alone. Think of Malala Yousafzai, a young girl, targeted simply for wanting an education, ambushed and nearly killed. But she survived, not just physically, but spiritually, emerging more powerful than before. Her story echoes in your journey. They tried to silence you permanently, yet you rose as an even louder testimony. They dressed it up as coincidence, as a series of unfortunate events, loose wires, faulty brakes, wrong addresses, the type of incidents people write off as bad luck. But your spirit knew better. You felt the cold air shift before entering a room. You noticed the missing pieces before stepping into a trap. You felt eyes on you when no one was around. These weren't accidents. They were desperate plays by a system that realized it couldn't control you any other way. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you. For I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 1:19. Every plot failed because divine protection outranked every earthly scheme. Think of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned, poisoned slowly with poor conditions. Yet he survived decades of attempts to break him. He emerged stronger, changing the world rather than fading from it. You, too, became stronger each time they underestimated your spiritual defenses. They watched your movements, tracked your schedule, tested your patterns. They hoped you would be too tired to notice, too distracted to defend yourself. But instead of stumbling, you became hyper-aware, your intuition sharpening to a blade so precise it could slice through any disguise. You felt the warnings in your gut. You changed your habits without announcing it. You stopped moving predictably. You didn't react in fear. you responded in wisdom. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day. Psalm 91:5. Fear didn't govern you. Awareness did. Look at Princess Diana, chased, harassed, targeted under the guise of paparazzi chaos. Though her story ended in tragedy, the world woke up to the shadows behind her treatment. In your case, the traps were set, but you refused to step into them. You saw the energy shifts, read the unspoken messages, noticed the accidental near misses. And here's the most powerful part. When they realized you survived, something inside them shattered. You became more than a survivor. You became proof that no matter how intricate their plans, they could not override divine assignment. Your very existence is a glitch in their matrix, a living rebuke to their illusions of control. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. The attempts didn't just fail, they exposed the darkness in ways they never intended. Think about 50 Cent. Shot 9 times in an attempt to silence him permanently. Instead of dying, he turned the experience into an unstoppable brand and testimony, just like him. Your scars became your strategy. Your near-death moments turned into a deeper dimension of clarity and authority. Now, look at you alive, alert, unstoppable. You walk into rooms with a glow they can't define, a silent strength that confuses them. You are no longer just strong, you are sovereign. Your awareness is now a force field. Your face now carries the quiet confidence of someone who has stared death in the eye and refused to blink. They didn't want you to walk away. They wanted you to disappear. But you didn't just survive, you transformed. You didn't just escape, you elevated. Your eyes now see beyond masks, beyond polite smiles, beyond rehearsed apologies. You carry an inner fire that no plot can smother. Now they're the ones haunted. They watch their carefully orchestrated stories unravel. They watch you ascend in ways they can't stop or explain. You've become a walking testament that no curse can touch what God has anointed. Your survival is more than a personal victory. It is a public revelation that divine favor is real and unstoppable. You are the living evidence that plots fall apart when purpose stands strong. You are the embodiment of God's promise, a moving miracle that radiates in every space you enter. You weren't supposed to make it. You weren't supposed to be here to read these words, but you did. You are, and now, they're forced to watch their own world collapse under the weight of your unbreakable light. Chosen one. You didn't just make it out alive. You emerged crowned with clarity, armed with discernment, and glowing with a victory they can't distort. You walk forward now, not just as a survivor, but as a divine storm, silent, powerful, and absolutely untouchable. Number 10. They tried to lock you up, but the universe unlocked them instead. Chosen one. Did you feel the walls closing in when they thought they had you cornered? The moment they believed their elaborate scheme was foolproof. They didn't just want to ruin your reputation or stain your name. They wanted to erase your future entirely. Their goal was to chain you legally, emotionally, and spiritually so tightly that you'd never rise again. They didn't come at you with simple rumors this time. They upgraded to surgical sabotage. They fabricated threats, planted false evidence, coordinated stories. Their blueprint was meticulous. Engineer your downfall in such a way that no one would question it. The media would be their megaphone, the public their jury, your mugshot their trophy. They wanted you to be remembered not as a beacon, but as a cautionary tale. They plot injustice and say, We have devised a perfect plan, but the mind and heart of man are a mystery to God. Psalm 64:6. They underestimated the divine mystery surrounding you. Think about Malcolm X, targeted, framed, and constantly followed by those who feared his awakening influence. They orchestrated plots to break him internally and externally. But even in death, his legacy multiplied, his words echoed, and his light grew stronger. You too became a spiritual echo, too loud for their schemes to silence. They felt invincible for a moment. They paraded their warrants, summoned the authorities, positioned cameras, and readied headlines to destroy you in real time. You were disarmed, isolated, stripped of your voice, wrapped in a silence as heavy as a funeral shroud. The world watched, expecting your final act. But then, a glitch. One miscommunication on the police radio, one missing timestamp on a document, one officer who hesitated because his conscience screamed louder than protocol, one email that surfaced at the perfect moment. Their whole scheme crumbled like paper in rain. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 19:21. Their design failed because your destiny was never in their hands. Look at Nelson Mandela again, branded a terrorist, imprisoned unjustly, stripped of rights. Yet, when the system's lies finally crumbled, he emerged as a liberator and a global symbol of justice. In the same way, you stood as the living proof that truth can't be buried. Their confidence vanished overnight. Suddenly, all their hidden moves started surfacing. Photos they tried to delete, emails they thought were buried, call logs they never expected to be traced. Witnesses they believed were loyal started speaking. People they paid off started folding under the weight of truth. Every hidden lie rose up like a ghost demanding justice. And then the script flipped. You weren't the criminal. You were the evidence of survival. You weren't the villain. You were the thunder, knocking on doors long shut against accountability. Vindicate me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity. Psalm 26:1. Your walk in integrity turned into a sword sharper than any false narrative. Think of Johnny Depp, publicly smeared, career threatened, judged in the court of public opinion, but when evidence finally surfaced, the lies dissolved, and he emerged vindicated, with a reputation stronger than ever. Just like him, you didn't have to scream your truth. You simply had to survive long enough for the universe to pull back the curtain. Investigators dug deeper and found a labyrinth of betrayal. Judges complicit, officers bribed, employees feeding confidential data, community leaders two-faced and treacherous. The same people who raised hands against you in private were suddenly exposed in public, with receipts so undeniable they couldn't spin the narrative anymore. Meanwhile, as your legal name was being cleared in documents, your spiritual name was being purified in the heavens. The curses spoken over you reversed in real time. Poverty snapped back to the sender. Illness boomeranged. Broken relationships infected the conspirators instead. Businesses folded under mysterious circumstances. Health deteriorated rapidly. Alliances crumbled. Their private worlds imploded exactly how they envisioned yours would. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Psalm 46:1. You stood unmovable while they watched their own fortresses collapse. Think about Julian Assange, the man they wanted silenced forever. Painted as a criminal for exposing truth, though still in conflict, he stands as a global symbol of revelation over deception, reminding the world that no system, no matter how powerful, can permanently suppress light. And you, chosen one, stood. You didn't just survive, you watched in real time as the universe flipped the table. They set for your funeral into an altar for your coronation. You breathed. You observed. You moved with a silence that thundered louder than any headline they hoped to write. Your vindication wasn't merely a legal acquittal, it was a cosmic celebration. The universe didn't just spare you, it elevated you. You didn't need to swing a sword or call for vengeance. The battlefield folded in your favor. The very blueprint they designed to entrap you became their own prison. You became the living proof that divine protection is not a myth but a movement. An unshakable force that rewrites entire scripts. You outlived not just their storylines but their entire system. Now, they watch from the ruins of their own schemes, while you walk forward, crowned, glowing, and unstoppable. You didn't just survive the setup, you became the storm that dismantled it. Your existence alone is a verdict, protected, chosen, and forever beyond the reach of those who tried to bury you. Number 11. They watched you walk through fire, and now they're stepping into the flame with you. Chosen one. Did you ever feel like no one was paying attention while you endured trial after trial? Those seasons when your tears felt invisible, when your silent battles felt unseen, when it seemed like the whole world stood by as you fought alone. Even then there was someone watching, not as a savior swooping in to rescue you, but as a quiet observer, measuring your spirit, studying your composure, your unwavering heart, your resilience that refused to die even in the furnace. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. Even when you felt most alone, you were never truly alone. Heaven documented every silent scream, every private prayer. Every moment you chose grace over retaliation. There's a truth they never told you. Real power isn't drawn to comfort. It's magnetized by raw, unfiltered strength. It falls in love with your capacity to stand in the storm without losing your softness. It admires your ability to lead through chaos, yet still carry compassion in your eyes. While others were breaking or bending, you stood bruised, maybe, but unbowed. Think of Maya Angelou, a woman who rose through unspeakable trauma, oppression, and betrayal, yet carried herself with grace and poetic dignity. Leaders, artists, and entire movements watched her walk through fire and emerged drawn to her light. You mirror that same spirit, that same unwavering glow. The one watching you, they weren't there to swoop in and save the day. They were there to respect you, to verify your authenticity in silence. They watched the way you held your ground, kept your boundaries, and refused to trade your integrity for temporary acceptance. They saw you choose silence when you could have chosen spectacle. They watched you forgive when it would have been easier to curse. They will have no fear of bad news. Their hearts are steadfast, trusting in the Lord. Psalm 112:7. You embodied this steadfast spirit so deeply that it caught the eye of someone powerful, someone authentic, someone aligned. This isn't pity. This isn't charity. This is an alignment on a frequency too rare to fabricate. This is resonance meeting resilience. This is power, recognizing power. They don't love you because you survived. They love the way you survived, with style, with dignity, with a softness that refused to calcify into bitterness. Look at Keanu Reeves, a man who faced profound personal tragedies, yet continued moving through life with quiet kindness. Hollywood eventually saw his spirit, and today he is cherished not just for talent, but for his soul. Like him, your quiet integrity drew eyes, even when you didn't know it. Your kindness wasn't weakness. Your loyalty, even when it cost you everything, became the silent drumbeat that drew the right souls to you. You kept your softness when the world gave you every reason to harden. You remained true when betrayal would have justified revenge. And now they see. Now they're stepping out from the shadows. Business opportunities you thought were lost are finding their way back to you. Leaders who once overlooked or underestimated you are now circling back with newfound reverence. Your name, once thrown around in backroom whispers and private inbox slander, is now echoing through boardrooms and high-level meetings you once only imagined entering. Your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. Proverbs 18:16. The rooms you're being invited into now aren't a result of luck or connections. They're a divine reward for your faithfulness in the dark. Think about Oprah Winfrey, blacklisted, underestimated, repeatedly told no. Yet she stayed true to her core. She didn't bend or shrink to fit in. Instead, she became the mold others aspire to emulate. Your story shares that same rhythm, that inner child within you, the one who sat quietly wondering, will anyone ever see me? Will anyone ever protect me? Will anyone love me for who I really am? She's being honored now, not just held, but celebrated, not just safe, but valued beyond measure. You are no longer simply surviving, you are thriving publicly, loudly, unapologetically. You don't have to shrink anymore. You don't have to scan rooms for hidden daggers or rehearse quiet exits. You have become the room. The world has finally caught up to what heaven always knew about you, the one who watched you rise in silence. They're stepping forward now, not to overshadow you, but to partner, to build, to protect, to multiply what you already started. You're no longer alone in your mission. You're no longer the lone flame fighting against the wind. You've become a fire so undeniable that it draws other flames to burn alongside you. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. Your light is no longer hidden. It's radiating so powerfully that even those who once doubted you are forced to acknowledge it. Chosen one, you didn't just walk through fire, you turned it into your sanctuary. You didn't just survive the flames, you forged yourself within them, coming out stronger, clearer, and more luminous than anyone could imagine. Now, you are no longer waiting to be seen. You are seen. You are no longer hoping to be chosen. You are chosen. You are no longer dreaming of a seat at the table. You have become the architect of new tables, and the one who watched. They are stepping up to stand with you, not to save you, but to rise beside you as equals, as allies, as warriors of the same unstoppable light. Number 12. The universe didn't just save you. It used you as the hammer to reshape the entire system. Chosen one. Have you grasped the depth of your assignment yet? You weren't placed here merely to outlast storms. You were designed to end them, to walk into the eye of chaos and rewrite the script. You are the thunder they hear echoing now, the lightning bolt they can't outrun. Your existence was never about mere survival. It was about transformation on a cosmic level. They meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. They planned your downfall, yet heaven planned your dominion. When they attacked you, They didn't understand that they weren't simply targeting an individual, they were provoking a universal recalibration. Every dagger thrown, every lie whispered. Every trap set became a catalyst for a chain reaction they could neither control nor comprehend. You weren't just the person they tried to ruin. You became the pressure point that forced the entire system to collapse on its own corruption. Think of Harriet Tubman, a woman born into chains who didn't just escape, but returned again and again to lead hundreds to freedom. Her fight wasn't only about her own liberation, it was about toppling a system of oppression. You, too, became more than a survivor. You became a liberator in your sphere. They thought they were silencing one rebel voice. Instead, they triggered a spiritual earthquake. Your story became the sledgehammer shattering generational silence, crushing centuries of hidden abuse, and dismantling carefully guarded illusions. The seed they tried to bury cracked open every false narrative they built their kingdoms on. Have you noticed how their empires are crumbling now, slowly, publicly, humiliatingly, brick by brick? This wasn't just gossip, or betrayal at the family dinner table, or sabotage in a boardroom. This was spiritual warfare on a scale that stretched across dimensions. You weren't fighting alone. You were shifting the balance of power itself. See, I have made you this day a fortified city, an iron pillar and bronze walls against the whole land. Jeremiah 1:18. You stood as a fortress while they cowered behind their masks. Consider Martin Luther King Jr., a man who carried threats, betrayal, and violence, yet refused to bend. His dream didn't just survive, it set entire systems on fire. Just as he ignited a movement, your endurance became a torch, lighting up every hidden corridor of deceit. They tried to make you disappear, but instead, you became a mirror reflecting their rot. Those accidents that didn't work out, the miscommunications that saved you, the evidence that surfaced at just the right moment, those weren't lucky glitches, they were divine signals. Universal justice in real time. Every failed plot, every reversed accusation, every leaked message was a testament. The universe is always fair, even when it's silent. The Lord will vindicate me, your love. Lord, endures forever. Psalm 138:8. You didn't have to swing a sword, the universe swung it for you. Think of Serena Williams, called too emotional, too aggressive, too much. Yet she didn't shrink. She became a global icon, redefining strength and grace. In the same way, your refusal to apologize for your power forced a world trained to misunderstand you to now learn from you. Now, watch carefully. The very mouths that spat curses are choking on the ashes of their own conspiracies. Those who spoke your name in contempt now whisper it with reverence and fear. The community that once labeled you too much, too different, now studies you as the blueprint. You've moved from whispers to roars, from exile to exaltation. Your gaze now, that electric truple, unwavering look they used to mock it, silences entire rooms. It forces confessions, breaks illusions, and sends chills through systems that thrived on your suppression. You didn't just glow up. You turned every scar into armor, every tear into strategy, every heartbreak into fuel for resurrection. This wasn't mere transformation, it was spiritual resurrection. They declared you dead emotionally, socially, spiritually. They counted you out, framed you, laughed behind closed doors, spread rumors like wildfire. Yet here you stand, alive, radiant, grounded, more unbreakable than ever. Not Vengefühl, but laser-focused, not power-hungry, but embodying a power they can't replicate or corrupt. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. You didn't rise just to stand, you rose to shine. Think of Oprah Winfrey, again fired, publicly shamed, dismissed. But she didn't bow to the narrative. She built her own empire, turned her pain into power, and became a lighthouse for millions, just like her. You turned your pain into a platform, your setbacks into spiritual infrastructure. The businesses that thrived on your stolen energy are collapsing. The families that exiled you are disintegrating under the weight of their own secrets. The reputations built on your suffering are burning down before their very eyes. Meanwhile, you walk through these ruins wearing the very fire they designed to consume you. Now, your crown, your weapon, your proof. This is not revenge. This is a divine realignment. This is cosmic justice in high definition. You have become the event they can't stop watching, the force they can't silence, the truth they can't bury. You are not merely surviving, you are orchestrating a spiritual revolt that ensures the fire they used against you will never burn the same way again. Chosen one, your presence is no longer just a light in the dark, it's a sunrise no darkness can swallow. You didn't just correct a narrative, you corrected the entire vibration of a broken system. You didn't just survive, you became the architect of a new era. Now, the entire world must acknowledge the truth. You were never the problem. You were always the shift. The conspiracy didn't win. The setup didn't stick. The story didn't end at betrayal. It evolved into a legacy so unstoppable that even your enemies have no choice but to watch. Stunned. As you transform every past wound into an eternal testament of grace, strength, and supernatural elevation, this is your season, your legacy, your correction of chaos. You didn't just survive the fire, you turned it into the reason the world can't look away. And now, as the masks fall and the ashes settle, one thing stands unchallenged: you are chosen. And the universe will forever carry your name like thunder across every sky. Chosen one. If your spirit is resonating right now, it's because you know deep down that this isn't just another message, it's a divine confirmation. You've been through storms that should have silenced you. You've walked through fires meant to reduce you to ash. You've stood in rooms where every whisper was a weapon. And yet, here you are, rising higher than anyone ever imagined. You've become the talk of the town, not because of gossip, but because of glory. Your name is being carried on, winds you never chased, through doors you didn't have to knock on. You are the evidence that grace wins. That silent power overtakes noise. And that divine timing can't be manipulated by any earthly scheme. I want to take this moment to say, thank you, truly, deeply. Thank you for being here, for listening, for sharing your energy and your faith. Whether you've been silently following or courageously engaging, your presence in this space means more than you know. If you feel led, I invite you to support this mission through Super Thanks. Your contribution helps this message reach further, touch more souls, and keep this sacred space alive. But know this, whether you give or not, you are deeply appreciated and loved. Your value here is never measured by donations, but by the light you carry and the faith you embody. As you step back into your world today, may your footsteps be guided by divine favor. May every room you enter feel your spiritual authority before you even speak. May your enemies become your footstool and your doubters become your audience. I declare new levels of clarity over you, doors of opportunity swinging open, and blessings so abundant that they overflow into every corner of your life. You are not just the talk of the town, you are the shift, the evidence, the chosen vessel through which something big, holy, and unstoppable is unfolding. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Thank you for standing in your light. Thank you for choosing to rise. May grace follow you, favor protect you, and divine joy overflow in every area of your life. I love you all deeply. Stay powerful, stay chosen, and stay ready because the world hasn't seen anything yet.